continuing to discuss why some people are left-handed. So far this week, we've been over inherited traits, whether those inherited traits were behavioral or physical. Yesterday, we talked about DNA, chromosomes, genes. Today, we're going to talk about dominant and recessive genes. So follow along as I read through the passage, and then we will move on to the response questions, or bellwork questions, excuse me. Remember that your chromosomes come in pairs. Therefore, the genes on those chromosomes are in pairs too. Each of your parents contributes one gene to each pair. The dominant gene in a gene pair is the one that controls the appearance of a trait. If one or both genes in a pair are dominant, the dominant form of the trait is visible. For example, the gene for brown eyes is dominant over the gene for blue eyes. This means that if you receive a gene for brown eyes from at least one of your parents, you are guaranteed to have brown eyes. By comparison, recessive genes have little or no observable effect on a trait. Only when both genes in a pair are recessive will the recessive form of the trait be visible. So if you have blue eyes, you know that both your parents passed on the recessive gene for eye color to you. Okay, so we have 4 questions here. We'll respond to each one at a time. Number 1, if a girl has blue eyes, does she have 2 dominant genes, 1 dominant and 1 recessive gene, or 2 recessive genes for eye color? Well, it says here in the last sentence of the last paragraph, if you have blue eyes, you know that both your parents passed on the recessive gene for eye color to you. So you would have 2 recessive genes if you have blue eyes. Excuse me. If a boy has brown eyes, what 2 combinations of genes for eye color could they have? Well, if you have brown eyes is dominant over the gene for blue eyes. This means that if you receive a gene for brown eyes from at least one of your parents, you are guaranteed to have brown eyes. So there could be, since brown eyes are dominant, there's 2 combinations you could have. You could have 2 dominant or 1 dominant and 1 recessive. Number 3, if 2 parents each have a dominant and a recessive gene for eye color and have a baby, how many possible combinations of genes could there be? List them. There could be 3 possible combinations. They could have we'll say 3 possible combinations. They have 2 dominant, 2 recessive, and 1 dominant and 1 recessive. Question number 4, will a person with 2 dominant genes for brown eyes ever be able to have a baby with blue eyes? Why or why not? Well, they have 2 dominant genes for brown eyes, so they don't have, so their combination is dominant. Okay, so they will always pass on at least one of those dominant traits, or dominant genes for brown eyes. So we know that brown eyes are dominant gene over blue eyes. So the answer would be no. Now if that person had 1 dominant, 1 recessive, then it'd be a different story. And there you have it. There's your Science Bell Work Week 8, Day 3. Make your corrections if you need to, and I hope you guys have a good day.